I had everything I thought I wanted. A stable life, a devoted boyfriend, a perfect apartment overlooking the city skyline. People said I was lucky. My friends envied my relationship, my job, my life that looked flawless from the outside. And yet, despite all the stability, something inside me had begun to stir, a curiosity, a yearning, a truth I couldn't quite put into words. His name was Daniel. Tall, confident, handsome. The kind of man who made people stare without even trying. He was dependable, kind, and meticulous in ways that made me feel cherished and safe. But comfort, I realized, isn't always the same as fulfillment. And lately, I had felt an unshakable tug towards something else, something I couldn't fully name, until her. Her name was Lila. A friend I had met at an art exhibition, a week ago, under the soft lights of a gallery. She was playful, witty, daring, and she exuded a confidence that left me both intimidated and mesmerized. Lila was the kind of person who didn't just move through the world, she danced with it, unafraid to claim space, to challenge norms, to live unapologetically. It started with small things. Casual glances, lingering touches when no one was looking, playful teasing that made my heart race. I told myself it was harmless, fleeting, a spark of curiosity that would fade. But every encounter with her left me questioning the life I had built with Daniel. I had always considered myself loyal, steadfast, committed. And yet, I couldn't ignore the magnetic pull toward Lila, toward the feminine energy that awakened something long buried within me. One evening, after work, I found myself at Lila's apartment under the pretense of discussing a collaborative art project. The moment I stepped inside, her world enveloped me. Bright colors, flowing fabrics, soft textures, and an aura of freedom that contrasted sharply with my own structured life. I felt a flutter in my chest as she smiled, eyes sparkling with mischief and warmth. "You've been quiet lately," she said casually, as if she could see right through me. "Something on your mind?" I laughed nervously, trying to brush it off. "Just tired, work stuff." But she tilted her head, smirk tugging at her lips. "Aha. Sure. You don't fool me. I see the way you look at things, at me." My breath caught. The audacity of her words, the truth behind them, left me momentarily frozen. Part of me wanted to deny it, to retreat into the safe, familiar embrace of Daniel. And yet, another part, a deeper, more authentic part, was drawn forward, trembling with anticipation and fear. That night, as I walked home, heels clicking on the pavement, I realized that my world had changed. Lila had awoken something I could no longer suppress, a desire to explore a more feminine side of myself, to embrace aspects of identity I had hidden even from myself. It wasn't just curiosity, it was awakening. And it came with a cost. Daniel was waiting when I returned. He greeted me with a smile, arms outstretched, the stability of our life calling me back. I wanted to tell him, to confess this growing desire, but the words stuck in my throat. How could I explain that my heart was pulling me in a direction I had never imagined? That the perfect man I had built my life around was no longer enough? As I stood there, caught between comfort and curiosity, loyalty and awakening, I realized something terrifying and thrilling. I was at a crossroads. To stay meant security, predictability, and a life admired by everyone but fully experienced by no one. To leave meant embracing a side of myself that was raw, daring, feminine, and alive, something I had long denied. The decision wasn't simple. Every fiber of my being resisted, every voice inside screamed caution. And yet, the pull toward Lila, toward feminine love, toward authenticity, was undeniable. That night, I understood that some awakenings don't wait for permission, they demand action. By the next morning, I knew that my life as I had known it was ending. The choice was mine, and every heartbeat echoed with the thrill, fear, and liberation of stepping into an identity I had long hidden. Leaving Daniel wasn't just about leaving a man. It was about claiming a truth, embracing a desire, and daring to explore a love that reflected the deepest parts of who I was. The morning after my encounter with Lila, I woke with a mixture of excitement and guilt tangled in my chest. Daniel was still asleep, his steady breathing a reminder of the life I was about to question. I sat on the edge of the bed, fingers brushing the smooth fabric of my pajamas, and wondered if I was losing my mind, or finally finding myself. Over the next few days, my mind replayed every moment with Lila. The way she had looked at me, the soft teasing in her voice, the thrill of feeling feminine and noticed. I found myself experimenting in secret, a swipe of lipstick, curling my hair, slipping into skirts and silky blouses when I thought no one would see. Each transformation was electric, each reflection in the mirror a mixture of fear and delight. Yet, each time I embraced this side of myself, guilt surged. Daniel's face, his warmth, his unwavering devotion. It haunted me. Was I betraying him? Or was I finally confronting the truth I had hidden even from myself? The tension reached a breaking point when Lila invited me to her studio one evening. "I've got something special for you," she said, eyes twinkling with mischief. "I want you to see yourself the way you've been too afraid to." Curiosity and fear collided as I entered her world again. Her apartment studio was a sanctuary of self-expression. Mirrors lined the walls, racks of clothes in vibrant colors, and an array of makeup and accessories spread across tables like a treasure trove. "You can try anything," she said, gesturing to the array of outfits. "Be whoever you want. No judgment. No limits." I hesitated, then allowed her to guide me. Step by step, I experimented. Heels that elevated me, skirts that swayed with each movement, blouses that framed my new curves, makeup that highlighted features I hadn't dared to accentuate. With each transformation, I felt a surge of confidence, of liberation, but also the prickling fear of discovery. When I looked in the mirror fully transformed, I barely recognized myself. Vulnerable, feminine, daring. Alive in a way I had never felt with Daniel. And yet, the thrill was mingled with guilt. This wasn't just play, it was a revelation that challenged everything I had known about love, identity, and desire. The suspense deepened when Daniel called unexpectedly. "Hey, do you want to meet for dinner?" His voice was warm, steady. I froze, the heels I had just slipped on suddenly feeling heavier, the skirt brushing against my legs like a reminder of the secret I was keeping. I fumbled for an excuse. "I can't tonight. Work's crazy." His tone softened, but concern lingered. "Okay, just call me later, all right?" After I hung up, I sank to the floor, heels clacking softly against the wood. My heart raced. The duality of my life, the safety of Daniel and the thrilling feminine self Lila had awakened, was a tightrope I wasn't sure I could navigate. Every decision carried stakes, discovery, exposure, guilt, and a growing realization that my feelings for Lila were no longer just curiosity, they were desire, longing, and authenticity. The days that followed were a delicate balancing act. I met Daniel, smiled at him, played the part of the devoted girlfriend, but my mind constantly wandered to Lila, to the silk, the heels, the way I had felt alive and seen. Each evening, I returned to Lila's studio, slipping deeper into this persona, exploring the feminine self that had always lingered beneath the surface. Then came the first true test, a gallery event where Lila asked me to accompany her, dressed fully as my feminine self. My heart hammered at the thought of public exposure, the possibility of someone recognizing me, the thrill of living openly in a form I had never dared before. The night arrived. Lights glittered against the city skyline, music and laughter filling the gallery. I walked beside Lila, heels steady, dress swaying, makeup flawless. Each glance from strangers made my pulse race. Every whispered compliment or curious look made me realize that this side of me, hidden, secret, and long suppressed, was no longer a fantasy. It was real, powerful, and captivating. The emotional tension reached a fever pitch when a familiar face appeared, a friend from work who knew Daniel. Recognition flashed in their eyes. My stomach twisted. I forced a smile, but my pulse surged. Could they expose me? Would Daniel find out? The stakes of my secret life had never felt higher. Lila leaned close, whispering in my ear, "Relax. This is you. This is freedom. Let them see who you really are." Her words were a lifeline. Trembling, I embraced the thrill, walking with poise, letting the confidence I had secretly craved radiate outward. And in that moment, I understood, leaving Daniel wasn't just about attraction to Lila. It was about embracing a self I had denied, a feminine identity that demanded acknowledgement, and a love that reflected authenticity, not comfort. But just as the night felt like a triumph, my phone buzzed in my clutch. A message from Daniel. "I miss you. Can we talk?" My chest tightened. The double life, the balancing act, the exposure, all of it collided into one overwhelming, electric moment. And I knew the real challenge was just beginning, choosing between the life I had built and the self I had awakened, between comfort and feminine love, between safety and desire. The gallery lights sparkled, the crowd moved around me, and my reflection in a tall mirror caught my eye. I was both the same and completely transformed. Vulnerable yet powerful, nervous yet daring, caught between worlds. And I realized, nothing would ever be the same. The choice I made next would define everything. My love, my identity, and the life I was about to claim for myself. The gallery event had been a revelation. Walking beside Lila, fully embraced in my feminine persona, had unleashed a confidence I hadn't known existed. Every glance, every compliment, every whispered curiosity from strangers electrified me. I felt alive, radiant, visible in a way I had never been with Daniel. And yet, the thrill was inseparable from fear. Fear came crashing down in the form of an unexpected visitor, Daniel. I froze the moment he appeared near the entrance, scanning the crowd with a practiced calm that betrayed the storm inside. He hadn't expected to see me there, dressed as I was, fully transformed. His eyes locked onto mine, and a jolt of panic surged. "Wait, is that you?" His voice was calm, but there was something in his tone, a mix of disbelief, hurt, and confusion, that made my stomach twist. Lila's hand found mine, squeezing gently. "Relax," she whispered. "It's your moment. Own it." I swallowed hard, forcing a composed smile. Every instinct screamed to flee, to retreat into my old life with Daniel, to deny the truth. But this wasn't denial anymore. This was authenticity, visibility, freedom. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, embracing the persona I had explored in secret. Daniel approached, each step deliberate, tension thick in the air. I don't understand," he said softly, eyes searching mine. "Is this real? Who are you right now?" The room felt like it had shrunk to a single point. The three of us, the crowd moving like shadows around us, witnesses to a revelation that was intimate yet public. My pulse raced, heels pressing into the polished floor, silk swaying with every heartbeat. "I'm me," I whispered, voice steady now. "The me I've been hiding. The me I've been afraid to show." Daniel's face contorted, hurt, confusion, disbelief, but also a flicker of understanding. He took a step back, giving me space, and I felt both relief and fear. The first moment of true exposure had arrived, and I was trembling, vulnerable, and alive. Then came the real challenge. My phone buzzed in my clutch. A message from a coworker who had spotted me at the gallery earlier, now sharing photos publicly online. Panic surged. My double life, my exploration of feminine love, my secret desires, was no longer private. Every nerve screamed that exposure was imminent. Lila pressed a reassuring hand to my back. "You've got this. Let them see who you really are." I stepped onto a raised platform for the gallery showcase, every eye in the room following me. The crowd whispered, some curious, some judgmental, some admiring. Every step in my heels was both a risk and a declaration. I was choosing authenticity over safety, desire over comfort. Daniel remained at the edge of the crowd, conflicted. I saw him struggle. Part of him wanted to reach out, part of him recoiled, unable to reconcile the person I was becoming with the one he had loved. And then, someone laughed. A cruel, pointed laugh from across the gallery. I froze. The crowd's attention shifted, whispers rippling like water across the room. Judgment, curiosity, fascination. It all collided, and I realized the stakes had reached their peak. Exposure was no longer theoretical. My secret self, my feminine identity, my desires, all were laid bare. I took a trembling breath, adjusting the dress, lifting my chin. Vulnerability became power as I met the gazes around me. Every whisper, every pointed glance, every flash of a camera became a test. Could I stand in my truth, fully, unapologetically, despite fear, judgment, and heartbreak? Lila moved beside me, radiant and confident. "You're incredible," she whispered. "Own it. Every moment." And I did. Step by step, smile by smile, I navigated the gallery, heels steady, dress flowing, identity exposed yet unashamed. Daniel watched, torn between love, hurt, and awe. Every heartbeat carried the thrill of liberation and the pang of guilt. I had left the life of certainty for a love that reflected my truth, feminine, daring, and entirely mine. But just as I reached the end of the showcase, a sudden voice rang out from the back of the gallery. "Wait! You can't do this!" The crowd shifted, tension snapping taut. I turned, and froze. A prominent figure from my social circle had arrived unexpectedly, ready to expose, judge, or challenge the choice I had made. The room went silent. Every eye locked onto me. The platform felt impossibly high, the heels impossibly sharp beneath my feet. My pulse thundered in my ears. And in that charged moment, I realized the truth. Leaving Daniel, embracing Lila, exploring my feminine identity, it had brought freedom, desire, and authenticity. But it had also drawn danger, judgment, and stakes I had never imagined. I met the challenging gaze of the newcomer, took a shuddering breath, and lifted my chin higher. Vulnerable, exposed, but fully alive, I realized I had crossed a threshold. There was no turning back. The gallery had fallen silent. Every eye in the room was fixed on me, on the transformation I had embraced, on the choice I had made to step into a truth I had long denied. My heels pressed into the polished floor, the silky fabric of my dress brushing my legs with every shudder of nervous energy. Vulnerable, exposed, and trembling, I stood frozen as the newcomer's gaze bore into me. Daniel remained at the edge of the crowd, his expression a mixture of disbelief, hurt, and awe. I wanted to reach out to him, to explain, to soothe the tension, but the words lodged in my throat. This wasn't a matter of explanation anymore, it was a declaration. My life, my identity, my desires, had shifted, and there was no turning back. Lila's hand found mine, her touch grounding me, her confidence flowing into me. "You're incredible," she whispered. "Own it. Every moment." I swallowed hard, lifting my chin. Vulnerability became power. Every whisper, every pointed glance, every flash of a camera transformed from threat into acknowledgement. I had chosen feminine love, authenticity, and a version of myself I had never allowed to exist. And now, it demanded recognition. The newcomer took a step forward. "This isn't right. You're playing with things that aren't meant to be played with." Their voice was loud enough to ripple through the gallery, drawing attention from the crowd. Murmurs rose. Some faces were curious, some judgmental, some shocked. I felt a tremor of fear, but beneath it burned a thrilling surge of defiance. I had crossed a line, stepped out of safety, and embraced a truth too long hidden. I took a steadying breath, heels clicking as I moved closer to the edge of the platform. Daniel's voice broke through the tension, soft but deliberate. I don't understand all of this," he said, eyes searching mine. "But I need to know, who are you choosing?" My pulse raced. The room seemed to shrink around me, every heart in the crowd beating in tandem with my own. I had wanted freedom, desire, and authenticity, but the stakes were higher than I imagined. Exposure wasn't just public, it was deeply personal, intimate, and potentially life-altering. Then, my phone vibrated in my clutch. A message flashed across the screen. "They know. Everyone knows now. Are you ready for what comes next?" My chest tightened. Every nerve screamed. The thrill, the fear, the excitement. It all surged into a single moment of decision. I was no longer hidden. My identity, my desires, my choice to embrace feminine love, were on display for the world to see. I glanced at Lila, whose eyes shimmered with pride and mischief. She squeezed my hand. "It's your life. Your choice. Whatever happens, we face it together." The gallery lights seemed to flicker, shadows stretching like fingers across the walls. My reflection in a nearby mirror caught my eye, soft, radiant, alive. Vulnerable yet powerful, exposed yet daring, I realized that leaving Daniel had not been just about desire, it had been about claiming a self I had long denied. And then, the unexpected. A soft creak echoed from the far corner of the gallery. Someone or something moved in the shadows. My heart lurched. Every instinct screamed that danger, revelation, or confrontation was imminent. The crowd's murmurs rose to whispers, curiosity and suspense rippling through the room like a living entity. I lifted my chin, shoulders back, heels steady beneath me, and whispered to myself, I am ready. The shadow shifted closer. The newcomer's expression twisted into something unreadable, a mix of astonishment and intent. The gallery seemed to hold its breath, the entire room frozen in anticipation. And just as I opened my mouth to respond, the lights went out completely. Darkness swallowed the gallery. Murmurs turned into gasps. The only sound was my heartbeat, wild and loud, echoing in my ears. Then, a soft, deliberate laugh, familiar and teasing, cut through the darkness. This is only the beginning. The lights flickered back on. The gallery was chaotic, whispers rising like waves, but the figure at the far end remained unseen. My pulse hammered, my breath caught, and I realized the truth. The choice to embrace feminine love, to leave comfort behind, had set me on a path I could no longer control. The story wasn't over. Exposure, desire, danger, and discovery had only just begun. And deep inside, I knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever be the same.